So I'm going to make a drink today that I'm calling stormwater runoff. And the key ingredient of my drink is water, because water is the key ingredient to life, right? And we all know where water comes from, right?
Yep.
Where?
The faucet.
Right, you are. And where did the faucet get it?
The well.
Some people in Minnesota get their water from the groundwater. It comes out of a well. Other people in Minnesota actually get their water out of surface water bodies like rivers. So depending upon where you live, your water might come from a different place. But it's really important that we know where our drinking water comes from, because the things we do on the land impact the quality of our drinking water. So I'm going to tell you a little story as I make my my drink here about the Smith family that lives next door to me. The Smiths, they're a great suburban family. They care about things. They take care of their kids. They take care of their house. They take care of their lawn. And I watch them when they're out and realize that maybe they have some practices that they think are good, but maybe aren't so good when it comes to making a stormwater cocktail. So the Smiths, they're people like Mr. Smith. He's one of those guys who loves a green lawn, right? The greener the better. And as soon as the snow melts and you get that scraggly stuff left over from the winter, he's out there working on his lawn. So, he goes out and he buys his plant food. And let's see here, his lawn was looking particularly tacky this year, so he bought the NPK of 15-30-15 because he really wanted more phosphorus to green up his lawn really quick. So, and plus, he's the kind of guy who's kind of impatient because he doesn't have a lot of time to work on his lawn. So, he adds what he's supposed to his lawn, and then he thinks, well, what, if that much is what I'm supposed to do, if I do twice as much, it'll get twice as green, twice as fast, right? So he's going to add a little fertilizer to his lawn. And his wife, she's the person who really gets into doing the lawn work in terms of the mowing, but she hates raking. So she's got this great leaf blower, and she's thinking, well, the easiest way for me to handle my grass clippings is to blow them out in the street. And when we blow grass clippings out in the street, they, go down into the catch basin and down through our storm sewer system, and they eventually end up in our streams and rivers, correct? How many of you here own lakefront property or a streamfront property? Every person in this room should have held their hand up. Because even when you live in a city, or even when you live in the country, if you live by a curb or a ditch, your water is eventually going to get to a lake or a river in Minnesota. So we all have waterfront property, and all of these practices make a difference. So, Mrs. Smith, she also was going to she needed to do some improvements in her garden this year, so she had a load of compost delivered to her driveway, and she got about half of it put on, and then she got distracted by something else. So here's the rest of her compost sitting on her driveway, and she didn't cover it up, and lo and behold, we have a storm move in, and some of that compost went right into the catch basin and on through the sewer system. And her daughter, Susie, is like this junk food queen. She just loves candy bars. And her parents have been on her because her diet isn't been very good. So when Susie's out driving and she's snacking on her candy bars, she's got to get rid of the evidence before she gets home. So, before she turns the corner, some of that litter goes out the door and into the street and eventually down the catch basin. Now their son, he's like, the things that are most important to him are cars and girls, right? So he got his new car because he turned 16. Got a new car, he just is washing it every chance he gets. So he uses this high phosphorus detergent, and when he's hosing it on his driveway, where's all that soapy water going to go? Right down the catch basin and into the drain. And then we have, they're like every other suburban family. They've got a dog, Fido, and when they take Fido out, they like to take him out because they don't want him pooping on their yard because it's going to wreck that nice green yard, right? But they don't always remember to bring along a plastic bag to collect that waste. So, sooner or later, some of that dog poop is going to end up in the catch basin. And, so I don't know about you, but I like to change my own oil. And I'm probably not the most swiftest mechanic. And if I'm really in a hurry and not doing a very good job of laying down some a pad or some fabric or perhaps some cardboard, I might leak a little oil, and of course if I don't have my kitty litter handy, then some of my oil is going to go onto the driveway, which, you know, that's no big deal, right? Because the driveway's not connected to the catch basin, is it? But you know what happens when it rains and that oil starts moving down your driveway and into the street. Plus, if you've got a leaky car and that oil is dripping out the bottom as you're moving along, it's leaving little telltale signs of your travels behind. And, you know, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I have a cocktail, I really like a margarita, so I like to have salt on the rim of my margarita, which reminds me about this mist, because they're like so afraid of lawsuits that every winter they just throw so much sand and salt onto their sidewalks and driveways. It's just unbelievable. So, you know, I've got to add a little bit of salt, because, you know, where's that salt going to go at the end of the season? It's going to go right into the water. So now I have all my ingredients, and like all good water systems, it all gets mixed up. And what a tasty drink we have. Look like the drinking water you want to be drinking? And in Minnesota, all of our surface water and our groundwater resources are pretty easily connected to each other because of our geology, especially here in southeastern Minnesota. And when we do actions on the land that give us water that looks like this, you know, we don't think about it because it's out of sight, out of mind. But this is what we're adding to the environment. And nothing we do is intended to be malicious or harmful, but because we don't know any better, or we don't think about it, or don't think beyond getting that chore done, we don't really see this impact. And when you add this much of pollutant to a large body of water, it's even more diluted and a lot harder to see. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that we can think about. And if you were going to do this with your group, I'd suggest that you then go through the process of also talking about what not to do. You know, when you're changing your motor oil, either take it to a commercial place that has the right kind of equipment to handle it, or put a piece of cardboard down, make sure you fix your vehicle leaks. This group, I know I'm singing to the choir, use phosphorus-free fertilizer, use a commercial car wash, don't wash on your driveway. And if you want to wash at home, then make sure you use a phosphorus-free detergent and you wash on your lawn so the bacteria in the soil can help do that. Anytime you're gardening, keep a vegetated buffer around your garden. If you've got stockpiles of soil, keep them covered. You know, and littering, that's easy, right? Don't do it. But something as simple as making sure that when you put your garbage out for the garbage man, you put it in bags first and then tie those bags, because every time one of those clam trucks comes and lifts it up and dumps it out, if your garbage is loose in there, that's the source of a lot of litter. So make sure you bag and tie your own garbage. You know, grass clippings, they belong on your lawn where they can be recycled. Those nutrients can be used by your lawn. If you don't want them on your lawn, then gather them up and take them to a compost site, or have a compost site in your backyard. Salt, use less. If you're worried about slipping, start with an attraction agent like sand, and then you can sweep it up in the spring and reuse it again the next winter. And of course, always pick up after your pets and make sure that that pet waste ends up in your trash. We just had a litter collection event in Rochester, and one of the comments we had back from our mayor was, "Can you believe what we found? Somebody bothered to pick up their poop, and then they left the bag there, tied up." He says it would have been better for him to leave the poop there, so it could have degraded. You know, so it takes steps all the way through to the finish line to do things right. So with that introduction, I'll let Dawn take on from there, and I'll be back to talk in a little bit.